Okay, great. Over to Andre.
Hello, everyone. So my question is about a friend of mine. The question is about entities and people seeing paranormal things, paranormal entities that not everybody else can see. And then, so specifically this friend of mine, she told me that she feels like she has an entity inside. She can see an entity, well, a man. She can see a man during and after her meditations, in her dreams. Actually, in her dreams is kind of, I think that's kind of fear tests in her dreams, you know, where she needs to get out of a situation, a scary situation with this man. And then not so long ago, I introduced her to two friends of mine. One of them, he's a Reiki master, and he does Reiki. And then the other friend, she is a very intuitive person with a lot of experience in this intuitive aspect of life. So during this Reiki session, she saw this man again. And actually, this whole session of Reiki was to try to get this man, this entity, out of her body, you know. So yeah, she saw this man, this entity again during this session 2 times. It was very peculiar because before this Reiki session, she was talking with this other friend that is intuitive, and then my friend told the other that the thing that she has inside is an entity that was dead in a fire, and the man is actually they meet in the description because both they say that the man is black and that this man died in a fire. During this Reiki session, my friend told me, oh my God, I'm getting very confused because all these friends. All right, so my friend who has this thing inside is A. So the man who does Reiki is B, and then the other friend is C. Okay, so during the Reiki session, B was doing the Reiki session, and A was feeling very strange things. Like she was feeling like the room was very hot. Actually, she thought, oh my God, what is B doing that the room is so hot? And she felt like she couldn't breathe very well, like she was in a fire. And the heat and this these breathing problems, and then seeing this man again. So with all this information, like I don't know exactly how to interpret all of this. Like after having all this information and more that I cannot remember right now, or maybe access right now, I thought, okay, this looks like a trauma of a past life. I don't know. I feel like this is a trauma and this man maybe is my friend in a past life, and A needs to deal with this trauma right now. But when I told this to my friend, she didn't really resonate with this interpretation, with this trauma of another life. And well, my questions for you are: what do you think this entity, this man that my friend feels that is inside of her is exactly? And second question, that can be answered now or later or another day. This second question is, how could I help her?
Okay. And
hopefully this makes sense.
Yeah, the person who seems to have this man inside, what does she think about it? What is her opinion of what it is?
Yes, she truly thinks that it's an entity inside her. So actually, if you want a little bit more information, like she felt during her teenage, like when she was a teenager, she was very in a period where she was depressed. She felt that this kind of entity entered or started appearing in her life or inside of her. So yeah, she really thinks it's inside of her.
Okay. All right. There's all sorts of different things. Again, in virtual reality, almost anything can happen. There's lots of different possibilities that could end up in a situation like this. So I'll just kind of talk to the ones that are most likely first. And typically when people feel an entity inside of them, and you say it started when she was young and depressed, yes, that kind of resonates, because typically that entity that is inside of them is their own fear. Now, if you tell that to this lady, she's going to probably say, no, it's a separate entity. It doesn't have anything to do with my fear, you see, because that's the way she would perceive it. And if she has perceived it for a very long time, then it actually exists because of all the energy that she has given it with her own mind, with her own consciousness. So it becomes a thought form. So it's called a thought form. All right. And that thought form over a long period of time can become pretty strong. And it appears to be something outside of you and something that is, independent of you. It appears that way. And the way you interact with it, it appears that way. So from her viewpoint, she's right. It's something that's not her, that's outside of her, that is somehow inhabiting her. And that's the way she sees it, feels it, and in a way that is correct. But the source of that entity is very likely fear, her fear. And that's how it embodied. In other words, sometimes people deal with their fear. They come up with a metaphor for their fear, something that is symbolizes their fear. And this metaphor for their fear begins to take on a life of its own. And the more thought energy they give it, the more they think about it and so on, the more independent it appears to get. So it's actually an entity of her own creation. That's the highest probability. And that happens pretty frequently. I'd say 90% of the time when somebody tells me that they've got an entity that is attacking them or is doing things to them, about 95% of the time, that entity is one of their own creation. Even though they didn't intend to create it, it got created out of their own fear, and then out of feeding that creation, that metaphor, over years with their intent. Okay, so that is likely the most likely thing that's going on there. Now, if you associate that, let's say, with the fire thing, okay, then the LCS is aware of what's going on, and the LCS may use the sort of thing that's taking place in order to help people grow up, in order to show people things. So if in her mind, she hears or has the idea, oh, this was a past life where you were in a fire and got burnt. Well, her sense of it, that doesn't work because she knows it's kind of an entity living inside of her. But on the other hand, she's got that idea. Now, maybe she'll feel heat. She gets into a meditation state or something. She may actually play out that possibility and have all those feelings. Remember, feeling heat and feeling burnt, that's just in the data stream. That's just information. It can be, it can be delivered any time, any way. And if it helps her see bigger pictures, if it helps her see that there's more to life than just the physical reality and physical causality, and helps solidify in her mind that there is a larger reality out there, then that may be a good thing. That could be part of the solution. If she gets a big enough picture, she may even get to the point where she can deal with that thought form that's fear, that entity that she has created. Okay, so, and anyway, that would be my thought of what's going on. The I don't remember if it was A, B, or C, but the Reiki, the person, the friend of yours that's the Reiki master, they will get images and pictures to suit something that is helpful to the individual. What is there that will help me explain this to that person, or that will help explain it? That's kind of what is in their mind, and they'll get something in their data stream that'll satisfy that. It doesn't mean it has to be true. It just means that it's just what they get in their data stream. So it's, the system will sometimes put data in data streams because it helps people open their minds to larger reality. So that's why things like that happen. Or it could be in just something that she created that just seemed like the right thing. I don't know. Ideas play off of each other. People have thoughts in the back of their mind, and these things grow. It's a very active and organic situation in consciousness space. So all kinds of things can pop out that you wonder where they come from. Things you heard, things you've seen, all sorts of things are likely to pop out when you need something to pop out. You're looking for something. It's easy to find something that pops out there. So that's what I would say was going on. And what you can tell her, you can tell her all of this, but she may not relate to fear that a being that she has created out of her own fear. If she doesn't relate to this, then the way to help her get rid of it is to try to convince her to stay positive. In other words, every time she thinks, oh no, this thing is in me, I want to get rid of it, that gives it energy. That puts more energy into it. You see, every time she thinks about it. And if it's something that frightens her and she doesn't like, then she'll be dribbling energy into it 24/7, because that negative thing is just sitting there all the time. She's aware of it. So she's constantly pouring energy into its existence, making it stronger, making it more of a stronger thought form, more of an independent thing. It gains stronger and more independence the more she puts into it. So if you can convince her just to ignore it, don't think about it, don't worry about it, accept it, let it be. It's just there. Okay, it's there. It doesn't really cause you too much trouble. Deal with it. When it causes you trouble, just push it away, push it down, ignore it. And eventually, if you ignore it enough, it'll go away. That kind of thing. If you don't give it energy, if you don't have fear toward it, it will dissipate. Okay, so in a way, you can use that metaphor that with her thinking about it, she feeds it. And if she just stops feeding it, it will go away. It'll disappear. Okay, so that would be one way to present it to her if she doesn't like the idea that it's a being of her own creation.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Andre, did that
Thank
answer?
you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, we'll go over to Sydney now.
Okay. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Sydney.
I have not meditated for a long time. I decided to jump back in, started meditating about a week ago, been refocusing on MBT, jumping into being a volunteer. I need to go forward. I've been sort of in a rut. And my meditations have been semi-successful, but I had a dream last night, and I dreamed that I was climbing up this sort of like a tower, and it had handholds and footholds, and it was difficult. And I got to this one place where I was almost about to fall off the whole thing, but I saw the danger there and I avoided the danger and I started descending over the other side. But then I got sort of partway down and I couldn't feel my footing. I didn't know what decision I needed to make to continue. So I was stuck. And that's sort of where I am in my life. It was a total huge message. Hello, wake up. But I'm needing some tool to help me to figure out how to go from where I am to discovering what I need to do. Because I'm trying to be open. I'm not trying to push anything like I'm in my meditation. I'm trying to allow and that sort of thing. So I'm not really working on my intellect, but there seems to be a kind of a blank. I'm not getting ideas of how to move forward from where I am.
Okay. It sounds like there's two problems here, and I'll kind of talk to each one, and you can tell me which one you think is more significant to you. But one problem with not being able to go forward is you're not sure of, what to do, where to go. In other words, on this climbing down the tower, you didn't know where your foothold was or your handholds. It's like, you don't want to get it wrong, because if it's not a foothold or a handhold, you're going to fall. So you got to get it right, but you're having a hard time getting it right. Mm-hmm. So there's one problem, that is you don't know what the right answer is. And there's another problem that's a little different than that. It's not so much you don't know what the right answer is, you don't even know what direction to go. You don't know whether it's up, down, or sideways. You just are at a point that it's not you don't know how to move forward, you don't know where forward is.
Bingo.
Those are two different things.
Yeah.
So, and there's two different ways to work with each one of those. Mm-hmm. The way you work with I don't know what the right answer is, so I don't know what to do, because I'm not sure what's right. If it's a matter of what's right or what's wrong, then basically you just think about it, come up with your low entropy solution and do it. Doesn't have to be right. Don't worry about being right. Just do something. Just go off in a direction and it'll start to work itself out. Mm-hmm. But as long as you sit, at the origin not doing anything, then nothing works. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you just have to go, even if you don't have a direction. Just do something and things will start to happen as you do something, and then that will steer you into a direction that you need to go in. So just getting started is often part of the solution. Now, if it's not so much that you're afraid of being wrong or doing the wrong thing as it is you just don't have a clue, what to do at all, I guess I'd give you pretty much the same advice there. Come up with a set of possibilities. What are some possible things that you could do? Some possible things that you would like to do. What would you find interesting? What would you find engaging? And that may take a couple of months of meditation to find that. What would I find interesting or engaging? But when you get there and you say, well, yeah, maybe this, maybe that, I'm not sure. Well, then you can just pick one and go do it. If it turns out that that's not a good one, well, the path will take you around in a circle and bring you back and lead you off someplace else, some different circle. But you got to be moving. You need to be in motion. Yeah, when you're not moving, you're not growing. You're just sitting there, and there's something inside of you that's telling you that. It's telling you, Sydney, you've got to go somewhere, do something. You got to get connected. You got to get involved. You got to engage, and pick anything. Hopefully, something that you think would be fun or interesting or educational, or I don't know, anything that strikes your fancy, Again, spend some months trying to figure out what that is, but pick something, even if it's only a, yeah, well, okay, I could do that, but well, that's all right. Go do it anyway. If that's the only thing on your list, then go do it.
Mhm.
But when you do it, don't do it, halfway. Don't say, well, I'm not so sure. So I'll kind of dabble in that a little bit and see that will make that, that might not work. Instead of dabbling a little bit, just do it, get into it completely, engage it, and then see where it takes you. Because that engagement will introduce you to new people, new situations, new ideas, and from there, it can go anywhere. But it doesn't go anywhere at all if you don't start.
Should I orient my meditation toward that, or what should I do in that regard?
Mhm. While you're meditating, ask for some suggestions.
Mhm.
Okay, what are some options? In other words, and don't say, tell me the answer.
Right.
That doesn't work too well. Say, what are some opportunities? What are some suggestions? Some things I could do, some connection. And during the day, be open to it. As you sit down and do whatever you do, if you watch TV or read a newspaper or read a book or listen to music, while you're doing anything, keep your mind open for, an activity that you could perhaps get interested in or engage in. Something, a group that you could join, go learn how to square dance, go, who knows?
Sure.
Who knows, anything, join a club that wanders around in the desert and finds pretty rocks or something. Anything that appeals to you, just be with people, be connected with things, be part of a thing that's doing, and mostly with other people, not just a thing on your own by yourself, which is the way introverts like to do it. They tend to do that, but it's better if you do it with people, and things will just turn up then if you get engaged in it to where you're not, well, I'll give it a try, but I don't know. That attitude will always be kind of negative, and it'll prevent things from happening. So just go into it and see who you meet and see where it goes, and let life be an adventure, an unplanned adventure. That's what I would suggest.
Sounds great. I'll give it a go.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All the more reason to come hiking with me, Sydney. We're in the same city, so.
Sign me up, Vanessa.
Okay, let's do it. Awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to Sylvia. Sylvia, are you there? I know you have to step away for a minute, so you probably are still away, unless, yeah. So I have a question for you, Tom, and then I think what we're gonna do is move into the second round of questions. So my question for you, Tom, is it's one that I've asked you before, but I'm obviously still stuck with it because it's still coming up. I think I asked you like 3 years ago when I was with you and Bruce. Yeah, anyway, so the question is, so I'm carrying around extra weight, and I've been carrying around for quite a long time. And I really don't want to carry it anymore. And I understand intellectually that it's fear. That's what's at the bottom line. It's like this, I don't know, there's some kind of fear in there that's keeping the weight there. Otherwise I'd be able, like, I know I need to just eat healthy, not eat so much and exercise. That's what I need to do, but I'm not doing that because of this fear. And I don't know what the fear is. And how do I get rid of the fear if I don't know what it is? So, and then I know I shouldn't overthink it. Anyway, it's coming up, and there's a lot of emotion attached to it too. Like, yeah, I get really emotional around the extra weight, and I'm fed up. So
how do you get emotional over just the fact of having extra weight, or it is about doing something about it?
I think it's maybe around, I'm not sure, it's hard to explain, but even I think about how other people maybe perceive me, how I perceive myself. Like I really don't like it and I really want to change, but I go back and forth between, no, I accept myself the way that I am. It's fine. I'm beautiful no matter what. But that's lip service, because I know deep down inside, I really am not happy being this size. So yeah, maybe I'm emotional because I know what I want and yet I can't do it. And I'm like, why can't I do it? And I get mad at myself and I just want to do it so bad, but I don't know how, because it's not working. And I'm getting married in 10 days and I'm like overweight and so trying on wedding dresses. And I'm like, oh, and now I have to wear a corset and like suck it all in. I just, yeah, it's not fun. So now I'm on this crazy diet. Anyway, like can you help me with like, what is the actual fear? Like, what is it?
Could be lots of different things, Vanessa. I think you should just set up a schedule for yourself to do your exercising, whatever it is that you do. Set up a schedule, write it down. Don't just have it in your mind. Things that are in your mind, you can switch around real easily and justify away, and they're slippery. Actually, write it down. What you're going to eat in a day, what you're going to do, the exercise you're going to do. Make your life scripted, in the sense that if it's not on your list, you don't do it. And then everything. I get up at a certain time, I exercise, I do this, I do that. Make it something that's doable. Don't go all out and try to, expect to, get it all done in a week or even in 10 days. But lay out, here's what I'm going to do. And if it's not on the list, don't do it. And you might even have a list of things that say, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to keep going to the refrigerator, looking inside and seeing if there's something in there I can eat. I'm only going to open that refrigerator 3 times a day, and only for these reasons. And then keep that list with you. And everything you do, look and see whether it's on the list or not. If it is, you can do it. If it's not, or if it's on the no list, don't do it. Okay, so that might help you. That may be a tool that you can use, because now you just convince yourself that, oh, well, just this one time, well, it won't matter anyway. And, you do these little things, then you can do it. And then you feel bad about yourself because you did it. And it's creating this problem. So by putting it down on paper, you actually make it more real than if it's just in your head. The things in your head are easy to justify, slip around, very, without much trouble. So that'd be one thing that you can do, and follow it. You only have one thing now that you have to be scrupulously honest about, and that is you only do what's on your list. You never do what's in the not to do problem. So that then brings it to a point that it's harder for you to slip out the back and cheat. So you don't have to say, well, I don't want to eat this, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to, I don't want to do this other thing. Just one thing. You just have to pay attention to that list.
Okay.
So that will simplify it and maybe will help you. But there is a fear there. And, fears, as far as eating and weight go, there's all kinds of fears that will do this. It's not just one thing that causes people to be overweight. There's all sorts of things. Sometimes people will get overweight because they want to take themselves out of the boy-girl game. Sometimes they want to know that people will still love them anyway, that they love them for them, not just for, their body. So that's kind of a test for that other person that they're loved and cared for. Anyhow, sometimes the fear is just such that the nagging fear itself becomes your way you deal with the fear is to find comfort foods, things that comfort you. Well, I'm kind of antsy and whatever, a little ice cream would just make me feel better, and then the eating really doesn't have much to do with gaining weight or losing weight. You just gain weight because it's just the comfort of eating sweet things or things that you particularly like. Some people, instead of eating, go out and spend money. They'll go out and buy a $1,500 bracelet, and they feel so much better now. They for the next month, they're just happier. They feel better because they bought this thing. That's
it was the second one for me, because as soon as you said that, I felt this wave of emotion. So it's the wanting to know that people love me for who I am and not just my body.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful. Thank you. Because now that I know what it is, I can work on that. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's not that unusual, to have that fear. It's common enough, but you think about it and realize that you just be who you are. And if who you are is a slim girl, then be slim. If who you are is not a slim girl, then don't be slim. Just be who you are and let people love you however you are. So if what you want to be or what you feel like being is slim, be slim and deal with whatever happens. In other words, you have to have the courage to accept the risk. What if people only like me because of my body? Well, okay, that's a risk. I'll deal with it when it comes up. But I like my body this way, and I want to keep it this way, and I'll deal with those consequences. Or you can do the opposite thing. I really like to eat a lot. I just love food. I love ice cream. I just want to eat. And if I get a little heavy, well, not a big deal. And if you feel like that, then just do that. Be that. It's not a big deal. And deal with it as it happens. And you'll find that it won't affect your relationships much. People who care about you don't care about you because of the way your body is. They care about you because who you are, because what's inside. So be you. Be that a chunky girl or a skinny girl. Just be you, and then let all the rest of the world be however it is. And you just accept. It's like your choice. Every choice comes with consequences, comes with what do you call it? Results. Every choice comes with its own results. So you make the choice to be thin, deal with the consequences or the results of being thin. Not so hard. You'd rather be heavy? That's okay. Be heavy. Deal with the consequences of being heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You see, but you need to be what makes you happy, where you feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important, because if you don't feel comfortable, it doesn't matter what anybody else does, you're going to be unhappy. You're going to feel bad. So figure out what you want, be that, and let all the chips fall where they may, and deal with it as it works.
Thank you. That's super helpful, because it is about me figuring it out, because I know society and media, they say you should look a certain way. And I think that influences a lot of how I want to be, but I don't know that that's my true decision. I think I'm letting outside influences skew my decisions. So that's really helpful. Thank you, Tom.
Just be the person you want to be. If you want to be, slim and trim, well, be it. Just do it and deal with that. It's not that any of these ways of being are wrong. The only thing's wrong is if you're not happy with it. Yeah. And if you're doing it for fear rather than because that's what you want, then of course that's a high entropy thing. It creates problems, makes you cry. You've probably been crying, haven't you, Vanessa?
Yeah, I always cry. Who I am.
I know that.
No, yeah. Thank you, Tom. That's super
Mhm.
helpful. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to Sylvia, and then I think after that we'll have one more question left for Ricardo, who's just joining us, and then we'll wrap it up.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa. And we love you. Tom, when I went through a health scare a few years ago, you had told me, Sylvia, this is a series of fear tests. And it certainly was. There was, and it was just so helpful in the same way that I think, Vanessa, sometimes just identifying the problem helps you, put your focus, not even intellectually, but even just, intuitively. It's good to have a target. And so I've been thinking a lot about whether, as a society, we get these big societal lessons at different phases in our history. And it really feels like right now with climate change, with worldwide refugee populations, with the rise of the extreme right, et cetera, there's so many things that seem to be happening. Either one cause that's happening everywhere, like, climate change, but I feel like there are big lessons we're meant to be learning as a society. And I'm wondering, is that true? Are there are there kind of pauses in big lessons for society? And then there are times when we have very specific lessons we're supposed to be collectively learning. So that's part A. And then part B, could you help articulate what the lessons are for this moment in time? Because I feel like that would be super helpful to me personally.
Okay. Yes, there are big picture lessons as well as individual lessons. The big picture lessons tend to be a kind of a coalescing of individual lessons. And right now, as we move into the next couple of decades, you've probably heard me talk about this for the first time in the history of mankind, we have an opportunity to take some big steps. Okay. And we're in the process of getting ready for that, for those choices. And we will be for a decade or so getting ready. So things are happening that kind of pushing people to take a side. They're pushing people to think about what's important and what's not, to think about what's the nature of reality even, and what isn't, the significance of being, why are we here? All these kind of questions are kind of being pushed up into people's awareness because it's time. It's time that we begin to work that problem. We have come to a point where we're going to work that problem one way or another. And it would be good if we, worked it out in a positive way. So yes, things are kind of coming to a head, but don't think of that in the short term. This head may go on for a decade or two, but they're coming to a head to push us to make choices. We have to make choices. And we have to understand that there's responsibility that goes with that choice. When you make a choice, then you've got consequences or results of that choice. And you have to live with it. And how do you make that choice? How much research do you do first before you make your choice? How much of your choices are pushed by your fear? How much of your choices are pushed by your beliefs? How much of your choices are pushed by facts? I suspect of those three things, facts are the ones at the very bottom of the list as far as what pushes people's choices. Fears and beliefs and ego were probably the three top reasons for making a choice for most people. But in any case, those are skills and ways of thinking that are getting more and more important for us now, because we have opportunities now as humanity that we didn't have before. And as we move into these possibilities, our ability to choose and choose wisely is going to be challenged. So yeah, we've got some big picture level things to deal with. And we're seeing some of that, just all the stuff that's around us. We see that then, and because we have the potential to come out of this a couple of decades from now in a much kinder, gentler society, not quite so raucous and full of fear as we are now, we have that possibility. Well, that means those entities that really favor chaos over order, they're trying to up their game as well, because they're being pushed. They feel the push coming just as well as we feel the pull to that direction. They feel that also. So they're trying to up their game. More control, more power, more force. So we have all these things coming together now, individually and sociologically, as groups that are pushing us toward growing up, evolving or de-evolving. So how we come out of it at the end, well, it may end up that we de-evolve instead of evolve. Well, darn, maybe we'll get it next time. It's not the end. That just means, it'll take longer. Maybe we'll get it next time, but we could maybe get it this time if we grow up enough, and then it might be sooner instead of later. So yes, that's going on, and it's making our choices more obvious. People go through life and they have choices, but they almost don't even pay attention to their choices. Well, now we have things happening in our environment that the choices are stark. The choices are right out in front of you, and the consequences are just as stark. Well, that's making choices 101. How are we going to do this? Well, if we pass this one, then we'll get another one. Might be a little harder. That's usually what happens when you pass the first one. The next one you get's a little tougher because you've grown up some and you can handle things that are a little tougher. So yes, that's where we are. We're in a learning process. That learning is accelerating. So it's like, okay, we could take the next 3 centuries to learn this, but actually we have the potential to make big changes now. So let's turn the gain up on having to make better choices. Does that give it context?
Yeah, totally. And then like for myself, I think, this is not insightful at all, but I feel like, the lessons that I feel like many of us are getting from this is that, everything's connected and our choices have implications for others. And we need to be compassionate about those implications.
Exactly.
Like that feels like, is that a good thing to focus on?
Exactly.
Okay.
That is a good thing to focus on. Exactly. So those are what you just outlined. Those are good choices. Those are the low entropy choices. Now there's other choices too, like, hell no, I want it my way.
Yeah.
That's a choice. That's a high entropy choice. And we have, those choices now are come up to the forefront. There always have been there, but they've kind of been subtle and they've kind of not been in your face so much as they are now. And it's collective. We all know that what other people do affects us and what we do affect them. That's an obvious thing. Okay, we're in this together. Cooperation, see, that's the low entropy. That's the low entropy choice. Caring, that's the low entropy choice. Self-centeredness, that's the high entropy choice. It's all about me. That's, it's what I want. My way. Those are all high entropy choices. So what's good for all of us? Low entropy choice, yeah. So that's what's happening. We live in interesting times where big changes are coming up, big opportunities, let's put them that way. Big opportunities are coming up. And what we make out of these opportunities is we'll have to live with it.
Thank you.
All right, so last question is over to you, Ricardo.
Thank you, Vanessa. What I wanted to know about reincarnation, rebirth. does it exist in other realities, other physical matter realities that are not our own? And is it the same? Does it work the same in every physical matter reality over there?
Yeah,
That
pretty
is the
much.
question.
Pretty much the same. I'm sure there are details that are different, but in general, it's the same. Because in all these realities, as best I can tell, they all exist for the same purpose. They're all entropy reduction trainers. And if you've got an entropy reduction trainer, then we know how hard it is to grow up and change ourselves and become love. That's not a simple thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to do, and it takes time. And having one lifetime to accomplish that is just not a good idea. You're not going to get much accomplished in one lifetime. So yes, the reincarnation thing, having different experience packets is kind of the standard part of the virtual reality model, is that you go into the model, you play the avatar, you learn, you grow, you come back out, you go back into the model and play another round, and come back out, and you keep doing that, because the virtual reality is a tool for your growing up, and not well, you only have one shot, good luck. It's, there's so many things in this reality that will bounce you, toward success or toward failure. If you just had one shot and you happen to be unlucky where, everything was pushing you in the wrong direction, encouraging you to make bad choices, well, that would be very unfortunate. Well, you are going to get that sometimes. Sometimes you're going to have an experience packet and you're not going to do well. And other times you're going to do very well. And a lot of times you're going to be somewhere in between. So because the playing field is so, full of potential, but undefined, it has so much randomness in it, what I call, social Brownian motion, all people interacting with each other, all with their free will. That's such a stirred pot of possibilities that to just say, well, I'll see if I'm lucky, I got just one shot. Maybe I'll just be in the right spot when that spoon comes around and stirs, and I'll float right to the top, or won't be run over by anything. Then that's not a very good plan. So with all that kind of possibilities, randomness, you need to have a lot of samples or a lot of lifetimes. You have to go in and do it this way and this way. Some of them will be very, very hard, maybe too hard, and maybe you won't do so well. And some of them may be really, really easy. Things just fall at your feet. And most of them will be somewhere in between. But you need all of that. And you need the diversity. You need to be male, you need to be female, you need to be rich and poor, you need to be, different races and different situations and different languages and different cultures, and all of that diversity gives you a bigger perspective on what it means to exist and to be alive and to, make choices, because all those different variations have different choices that come with them. So if you just had one lifetime, you'd have this one set of choices in this one set of conditions, and that's it. That's just not a good plan for doing anything as far as evolving and growing up. That's why, you have to have the multiple lifetimes. It's because otherwise the system won't work. The way the system's designed, the way it works, just wouldn't work very well if you couldn't have multiple experience packets, one after the other. So yes, all of them I've been in, that's the plan, because all of them are really for the same purpose, and that is to, entropy reduction trainers.
Okay, yes, I understand. So thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. It looks like we are just about at that time. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for volunteering to make MBT more accessible to the general public. Thank you, Tom, for answering all of our questions. And yeah, thank you, everybody. That's
Well,
great.
well, let me add my thanks to that. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for taking your valuable time, your energy, your expertise, your knowledge, your skills, and helping more people learn and grow by volunteering here. Yeah, that's wonderful, and I very much appreciate all of you being here, and all of the volunteers that aren't here. I appreciate them as well. So thank you, thank you.